really is, look at, could this product sell more? Could my website actually be a relationship tool that helps foster relationships, helps develop them? What would I have to do to create that? If organizations started with that mentality, it opens up a world of possibilities.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Over the Pint Marketing Podcast. This is our second edition, so we're very excited about that. And the whole point of our podcast is to deliver quick insights into the world of marketing communication, and we're going to be doing that over a pint of beer. I'll start it off. My name is Brian Meehan. I'm the president of an advertising agency called Celtic. We're a full-service firm based in Milwaukee's historic Third Ward. I'm joined today by some fellow cohorts. I'll pass it over to them.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kurt Lingle. I'm the vice president at Celtic. Happy to be here today. I happen to be kicking back an IPA from Door County Brewing. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, everybody. I'm Pat McGovern. I'm director of new business over at Ascedia. Ascedia is a digital agency located in the beautiful 5th Ward of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Today, guys, I've got Outboard Cream Ale. I'm telling you, this is the first time I've had this. It's absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. So glad to be here. Dessert beer?
It's like dessert in a can, a little bit earlier. And before we jump in, I am going to say that I'm drinking a Sheeps Brewing IPA. They're out of Sheboygan, and boy, it's awful tasty this afternoon. So great to have you guys here. Looking forward to sharing some insights today and the world of B2B and manufacturing. And let's just be honest, guys, over the years, we've worked with a ton of companies in the B2B space. And as you work more and more with these companies, you start to see patterns, right? And there's some things that we've really noticed and we want to dive in today, but most organizations don't consider marketing a revenue driver. They look at it as an expense. And, you know, we've seen huge companies that have 1 or 2 people in their marketing department, keeping it super lean, and just don't see it as a revenue generator. They see it more as a cost. The other thing is, too, is a lot of these companies do a great job of manufacturing product, but not necessarily telling their brand story and how they're differentiated in the market. So we want to touch base on that as well. And let's be honest, a lot of websites, when we go to these folks, are out of date. It's a set it and forget it model where, hey, we did it 2 years ago. We don't have to look at it again. Where the reality is, in today's ever-changing world, you got to be looking at it almost daily. And the pandemic's changed a lot here. And we know that, you know, I mean, look at the world, trade shows, they're gone. Are they even going to be coming back in 2021? We've already seen some canceled. So that means your sales folks aren't going to have that face-to-face encounter with customers. So how do you create an experience or a website that helps foster that relationship? So the reality is the game has changed quite a bit, and we want to kind of talk about 6 things that we've really noticed going into 2021 that B2B marketers should be aware of. So I'm going to toss it over to Pat, and we'll kick things off.
Yeah. So thanks, Brian. And that's an awesome setup. I'm going to take the first 3, Kurt. I'm going to kick you over to the last 3, you know, so you can wrap things up. But that was a great segue into these things. And these are things, guys, and I think we'd all agree, right, that these are 6 things that aren't going to require a huge investment a lot of times, a huge time commitment. I mean, these are things that can be done relatively quickly, right, to start making an impact on the business. You know, and one of the big things is, and I'm going to start it off with piggybacking what you said, Brian, is that too many organizations really look at marketing as an expense rather than a revenue driver. Why? Because sales did that. Sales was the department that brought in the revenue. However, sales has been handicapped now. Right? You talked about trade shows going away. They ain't coming back anytime soon. They're not. Business travel ain't coming back anytime soon. Yeah. So marketing and sales, this is an awesome opportunity for them to work closely together to really kind of a 1-2 punch and drive things. So when it begins, though, with this, organizations fundamentally have to say, I've got to change my way of thinking and really look at marketing as a way to drive increased revenue and demand that from their partners. That's the first thing.
Amen.
2,
yeah. Amen.
2, what's your story? This is huge. A lot of companies have a story. A lot of companies have great stories. The problem that I've seen, again, in talking in my discussions with a lot of organizations, is that story, you talk to 10 different people and you get 10 different variations of the story. There's not a one single story. There's Pat's story. There's Brian's story. There's Kurt's story. That has to be codified, solidified, and be able to speak with that with authority to everybody using the same hymnal, really, right?
Hey Pat, one thing on that.
Yeah.
When we try to get our customers singing the same tune, what we've realized is it takes a lot of time and effort. It's not just a one-time meeting with the entire company to say, here's what our brand's all about and here's our story. It literally has to be something that they're doing every day. It needs to just be organic across the organization and something that people are talking about every day. And that takes training.
It's every day. And it really has to be from a top down, right? I mean, you've got to have leadership buy-in off of that. Otherwise, it's just going to be hollow. Yeah, right. But great organizations have that. I mean, they have that kind of mantra and they have that kind of focus. And that's what really separates the good from the great.
Yeah, if I have one real quick thing, I think with everyone has a story, and absolutely you're right. If you were to talk to 10 different people within an organization, they might have a different spin on the story, but you know, the word that came up a few seconds ago was training, and I would say training and just finesse. You know, how many times have we heard someone tell a really good story, and then someone else takes that same story and tells it another way, and we're like ready to fall asleep. So I would also say that when you are ready to tell your story, it's important to craft it and make sure that it is authentic and interesting and exciting. And obviously those are the types of things that we do with our clients, because the best story in the world, if not told correctly, is going to become a sleeper. So I'd like to just throw that in as well. Often people forget about that.
You know, I'm glad you're bringing this up, and I'm glad you're talking about it this way too, because, you know, where I'm coming at it from is as a way, a powerful story could help drive sales. But I just came out of a webinar today that was talking about the future of manufacturing and where manufacturing is going overall. And, you know, the problem that a lot of them are still having, finding the right people, finding people. You know why? Because a lot in the B2B space think manufacturing in that space, a lot of people that are out there still think of manufacturing as a industry job. It's a grimy, dirty, dark place. Yeah. It's far from that. And it's becoming less and less of that, but people connect with stories. And if you don't have that, it's going to be hard pressed to get and recruit, I think, the type of employees that you want, right? So that's Kurt, spot on. Let me finish up here, guys, with this, and I'll kick the ball over to you to wrap this up. Is organizations need to think about their website as their number one marketing tool and their number one sales tool. Now that we're curtailed, that we're living on Zoom, the website is the lifeline to your customers as well as your potential customers. You've got to start thinking about this differently. And I could see, again, why people have let this go. Why? Because I could go to a trade show and connect with my buddies and talk to my friends and talk to prospects, right? My sales team could get out and shake people's hands and take them to dinner and do the things that sales guys do. That game has changed. So if you don't have a website, you're not in the game, right? If you're not spending time with it and thinking about it, really is, could this product sell more? Could my website actually be a relationship tool that helps foster relationships, helps develop them? What would I have to do to create that? If organizations started with that mentality, it opens up a world of possibilities. Okay, I'm going to enjoy my beer. I'm going to get off my soapbox. Mr. Lingle, take us to the promised land.
Well, I see, on here we have a line item on buyers, which I guess if I could just kind of expand on that briefly, I mean, it's really coming down to know who you're trying to influence. There's people who are directly involved with making that transaction, but there are tons of influencers. And I think it's important for every organization, every brand to keep that in mind, because we get back to talking about stories, right? We want to share our story. We want to do it effectively. But sometimes in the buying cycle, there are different types of influencers along the way who might react differently or might have different hot buttons. So a lot of times with our clients, yes, we do talk about personas, and sometimes that means more than one type of target audience / influencer. We need to understand who that individual is and what makes them respond. That's very, very important because our message is going to have to be tweaked a little bit towards that. I would also,
Kurt,
yeah.
You know, one thing about customers I wanted to bring up is some of the companies that, you know, we talk to, they just don't have data. They don't have anything, you know, and it's just like when you, Pat's point, if you're going to cultivate a relationship electronically now through your website, you're talking about social media, you're talking about email, you're talking about inviting people in to get content. And if you don't know who they are, if you don't have a clean database, so I would say out of anything heading into 2021 strategic planning, look at your data. And if you don't have it, you need to get a plan in place to start collecting customer data so you can market to them.
Yeah, but you know what, into that, let's just, you're right, 100%. But let's say you don't have it, and it's going to be a while till you build it and get it going. There are still things you can do, right, to better understand your different.
Absolutely.
You can talk to your salespeople. You can talk to your customers. You know, there are steps that you can make that in the meantime, right, while you're fixing your data situation, problem, challenge, that you can be doing.
You know, I would say with the data, that's a good point you bring up, and I would say what's important about that too is that it's the one thing we've learned in 2020 more than ever. It's about speed. You know, they call it agile marketing. It's speed. We need to move quicker. What took us months and maybe a year to do a plan and development and execution, we're literally doing it in days, weeks, maybe a month. So having that data on who your customer is or what they're all about, how they're comprised, that's going to help us to move all the quicker to build the right message or figure out what the right initiative is to, you know, intercept them properly. You know, and I guess staying on speed a little bit, you know, let's keep in mind, we are moving a lot quicker in 2020. Everything's moving quicker. But at the end of the day, we still need to build awareness. We still want to secure leads. We still want to nurture leads, and we still have to close. We're just being pressed a lot quicker. So everything is just being compressed a lot, you know, in a shorter time frame. So data is very important.
Hey, Kurt, let me jump in on this because you said something that was really interesting about building awareness. I just, you know, HubSpot, which we're a partner with, a partner agency at Ascedia. HubSpot just had their big conference, and one of the nuggets that came out of that was, if you're going to do a paid campaign, you should be thinking brand first, lead second, even if it's a lead gen thing. And that is because if you're not even in their consideration set, you're out of the game, right? So you have to be in that, and you can only be in that if I know you, if I'm aware of you, which for a lot of people, that's going to be a really tough pill to swallow. But intellectually, it makes a hell of a lot of sense to me.
You know, Pat, that's a great point you bring up, and it's I think it's a nice transition to another one of our 6 things here, and that is about advertising in general. I'm going to skip over one, I'll come back to it, but advertising is key. I was reading a report, and we'll source this so you have access to some of these articles, but one of the articles I was reading, it said going into 2020, advertisers had planned on increasing their marketing budget by 75%. As a result, now that we're into 2020, 64% have reduced it a little bit. What does that tell me? It tells me that there's a big upside to the folks that didn't reduce it, because they still understand that we need to have our brand out there, and that it is important that people know who we are and that we are here and that we want their business. So this is the worst time to reduce our messaging initiatives. Very, very important. And that's an ongoing conversation we have with many of our clients, because again, it's a concern. It's like, do I reduce? Do I spend more? What do I do? I think it just comes down to never forgetting the core principles. And like you said, build awareness first, lead generation comes second. Without the awareness, we can't close. You know, the content is another thing that we wanted to talk about. And we're long past content being a buzzword. It's a must. It's a rule. We know that. We've been hearing this over and over and over. We all know that content is important. The one thing I would say about content, and it's the advice we like to give to our clients that we work with, is do content right. It's like anything. You can do it the right way and you can do it the wrong way. Spitting out content that doesn't make sense or that isn't on spot or on point doesn't work. I would say when it comes to content, a couple things. One is make sure there's an experience behind it. Give your content an experience. Make it engaging. Make it interactive. There's so many tools that you can use out there to make it like that, to make it interactive. Give it a voice. Video is a great way to see or to give your content a voice. It continues to be on the rise in terms of the type of content that people are using. There's research that shows that buyers respond favorably to video. So keep that in mind when you're putting out content. Podcast, what are we doing here today? I mean, more and more podcasts are being used. Reach. New audiences. Excellent way to expand your reach to new audiences. It's a great way to collaborate with other people. We're doing that here today. We've got Ascedia, we've got Celtic, a great way to collaborate. So I would say from a content perspective, think about the types of vehicles you can use from a content perspective that can really, move the needle and do it the right way.
Hey, Kurt,
what I found interesting. I'm sorry. I was going to say one thing I found interesting, and Pat, you said it originally about branding before lead gen, and Kurt just said about great content. What I always hear is we need leads. Lead gen.
Sure.
This whole campaign's lead gen. Yeah. And it's like you're almost skipping the entire upper funnel process where I get you in the funnel, I engage you with some really cool content, build awareness, and then I ask for that sale. But it's like people are fast-paced. I need leads. I need sales, especially in these tough economic times. Just don't bail out and have no content, because sometimes I'll ask, all right, when we get them in the funnel, what are we serving them up? You got some videos, case studies, white papers? And then, oh no, we don't have anything.
Yeah.
It's you gotta focus on brand and lead. To get that ultimate lead, it's going to take a little bit of time and effort and investment.
Yep, for sure. Hey, Kurt, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Since you're talking about content, and you guys have probably seen this. You got a potential client. You go out to their website. You start taking a look around. They've got a blog. You hit the blog page. Last post has been 2015, right? Content is, I don't think anybody's going to fight you on, hey, we need to get content. It just seems like a mother keeping it going. So, Kurt, what do you think? What's the best way for like an organization to get more content out on a regular basis?
Well, I mean, the one thing I would say is to work with folks like us. We're here to help. That's what we do. I say that tongue in cheek, but what I mean by that is, content is not something just like the web. It's not set it, forget it, do it once, we're done, pat ourselves on the back. It is literally, you've got to continue to feed the engine over and over and over. And while you're doing that, we need to also be aware that the type of content we're putting together is going to hit our buyer at different phases of the purchase cycle. The type of content we want to use during brand awareness stages is different from when we want to secure that lead versus nurturing the lead versus converting that lead into a close. It's time consuming. So I would say you got to commit to it. You really, really have to commit to it and work with a team of people that understand and know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Starts with commitment.
Pat, when we jump into some companies, what you'll find out is the marketing coordinator is responsible for all content. And that's why there's only one case study on the website. What we've counseled them to do is take the burden off of one person and spread it across the organization. Maybe the president once a month has to come up with something. Maybe someone on the plant floor once a month has to come up with someone in marketing, someone in sales.
Yep.
So it doesn't become this overwhelming thing. It needs to be shared across the organization.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, and I would agree. I mean, all the algorithms are built on the fact that the more you, certainly like YouTube, right? The more you produce, the better the algorithm kind of ranks you. Right? It's just a numbers game.
Absolutely. Yeah. And don't get too far inside your head. And we've all gotten into this where it's like, oh man, I don't have anything to say. It's like, yes, you do. There's always something. It may not always be a grand slam in terms of content that's consumed, but it's good content, and you should never let yourself get bogged down because you say, I don't have anything. Good conversation, guys. I'm going to put a hard stop on this because the whole point of this blog is to share ideas in a fast-paced, fun format. A lot of good insights, a lot of good beer, but I'll throw it. Go around the horn. Is there one last thing you guys want to throw at our audience?
For me, guys, it's this. It really begins with the mindset. You've got to think about marketing differently in the B2B space. I know a number of B2B companies are doing this. More need to do it. And it also the same mindset with the website, right? Once you select and choose to think about things differently, then anything's possible. But until then, you're still playing the yesterday's game, right? Kurt.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, Brian, it's a good point, and I'll keep it real simple. What I would probably leave with the audience is, don't get too bogged down and try to avoid the trap of getting lost in the weeds. It's like anything. It's like any advice we give our clients. It's like I'd rather have a client focus on less and do it really, really well versus trying to become just overburdened and overwhelmed and trying a zillion things and it doesn't go anywhere. And I think that can happen with content since we left on content. Just focus and start somewhere. Start somewhere and start with baby steps and do those baby steps really well. That'll build to the next.
That's good stuff. One thing I wanted to add, and we didn't talk about it, but I found it interesting. I was on Hitachi Solutions, and they talked about how more B2B brands are going B2C. Now, that's not a new concept necessarily, but I'm seeing it more and more where if you make the finished product, if you make that finished product, you're usually going through a dealer, or you're usually going through a retailer. If you start to switch the mindset, like Pat said, can we go direct? And what's the value of that? If I can go direct with my finished product, MSRP, I get retail pricing versus wholesale pricing, so it's more profitable, right? You don't have retail be a gatekeeper for your product. You control your branding, and you get customer data because when they're buying your product now online or however your channel is, you're getting good data. So I like to challenge people that way. Obviously, if you make a component that goes into a product, it's not going to work for you. But if you make that finished product like a lawnmower, instead of just going through a dealer, can you start selling some of those things direct to consumer to open up another pipeline? So I'll leave it at that. Guys, great conversation.
If I could, real quickly, I know we're over, but I love your last point. And the reason I love that last point, because it reminds us always at the end of the buying cycle is a person. B2C, B2, whatever you want to call it, it is a person at the end of the day. And I think we also have to remember that too. It's always a person at the end of the cycle.
Absolutely. Good job, fellas.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Look forward to talking to you next week.
All right. Bye.
All right.